and Beat Klossner, candidate for Kamloops-South Thompson, Communist Party of BC.
Hi, my name is Beat Klossner, and I'm running for the Communist Party in the South Kamloops riding, and I'm a certified baker, pastry chef. And thanks everybody for coming out tonight and allow me to make my case. My daughter grew up in Kamloops. She went to Westside Elementary School and high school. She also had a degree from TIU, so I'm well aware of what is going on in the education department. And the one thing I want to stress first and foremost, education is a human right. There is no negotiations there. That is one of the big principles we have. What we have seen here over the decades is slow starving of education and slow privatization, while at the same time we will show how much more money has been spent on religious and private schools by the BC government, and that has been going on for decades. And we will be the party, we have the program and the will and the commitment to put a stop to that. Thank you.
We will now go to the questions that will be posed to the candidates. The first question: as you know, our school district has serious issues with space in our schools. Classrooms are the most crowded they have ever been. Most concerning is the state of our schools. Many are in huge disrepair, and parts are even unsafe. School District number 73 is 5th from the bottom in the Ministry of Education's capital projects plan. What is your party's position with regards to securing money for school upgrades and resolving space issues in our schools?
Okay, here is the evidence. First, public funding for elementary and high schools in British Columbia fell by 25% as a share of the provincial economic pie between 2001 and 2016, from 3.3% of the GDP to 2.5% this year. BC has the second lowest level of public education funding in the country, nearly $1,000 less per student than the national average. Since 2005, government funding for independent schools has increased by 66%. Funding for public school has risen by just 19%. The BC government in 2016 spent $358 million for private and independent schools. The provincial government has been subsidizing independent schools since 1977. The NDP said it wouldn't change that funding formula if elected next May, and even current NDP governments in this time have never changed any of that. So what we see clearly a trend of starving the public system and supporting a private independent school system. We will raise the annual public school education spending by $500 million, an increase of $1,000 per student, and end provincial funding and tax breaks for private and religious schools. And this will be money that can be put into capital projects and rebuild our schools.
Thank you, Beat. The second question now: with the Supreme Court of Canada win for British Columbia teachers, students will be more supported now than they have been for the last 15 years. Yet the concern still remains for students who are waiting for Ministry of Education designation for recognizing special needs status. The wait times for students to be assessed means that students are not getting the support they need in a timely manner. What is your party's position with regards to support for early intervention for students?
Education being a human right, anybody should have education available according to their needs. So there's no question about that. The funding should be there. Now, some may always ask, where is the money coming from? And I can tell you the money is there. It's just not spent in the right direction. There seem to be plenty of money for imaginary LNG industries and new gigantic bridges in the lower mainland and things like that. But out of some reason, when we come to school and special needs, there is nickel and diming and, oh, we can't do this, oh, we can't do that. And that has to change. We intend to take the public spending back into public hands and spend it on the public, not on corporate welfare. That's where the funding comes from. That's how we can fix the problem. It is that simple.
We switch now to post-secondary education with two questions related to that area. Since 2002, provincial government grants have been cut from covering 70% of Thompson Rivers University operating costs from 70% to under 45% in the past year. The result has been skyrocketing tuition fees for domestic and international students, fewer full-time faculty and support staff positions, and an increasing reliance on individual and corporate donors. What is your party's plan to ensure that TRU, one of the prime economic drivers for Kamloops in this region, that TRU is funded appropriately to meet its legislative mandate and retain its public institutional status?
Okay, so what does it make TRU if it only gets 40–45% of public funding? It's not a public university. It's not a private university either. What it is a business in education. And this is a salami tactic, one little slice at a time to privatize and commercialize the universities. It's only a question of time until the BC government maybe will subcontract it to some large corporation that will run educational institutions. So, because what we need is absolutely free, 100% publicly funded post-secondary education. These institutions here have to be independent, fully funded institutions of learning, not businesses. When you walk in here, we have the Brown Family House of Learning. How would it be if that would be our house of learning or the people's house of learning? Wouldn't that be much nicer? Wouldn't that make more sense? No, somebody's always going to ask again, where's the money going to come from? And I can tell you where the money comes from. It comes from those who have it. We will raise the corporate tax rates to 2001 levels, which create $2.5 billion extra revenue for the province, just like that. More progressive tax system, so the wealthy will start paying their fair share again. It is very simple. The money is there. We're just not getting any of it.
And now we'll turn to students. Since 2002, domestic student tuition fees have, on average, risen about 400%. And increasing student debt loads on graduation mean that fully skilled graduates, even if they're working full-time in our region, cannot fully participate in the economy. Paying 4% interest on their student loans, that's well above prime right now, loans that can reach $30,000 or more, and that's not unusual. Graduates can't afford to buy a house or a vehicle or plan for a family. What's your party's plan to reduce student debt loads and ensure that TRU graduates can contribute fully to the local economy?
Well, the solution to that is very simple. Fully funded post-secondary education, no need for student loans. It's that straightforward, right? Education should be there for everybody, regardless of wealth or social standing. And universities that will be fully independent and places of learning and research, they will produce the future industry, the future jobs for these graduates as well. There could be a wind solar industry, hemp, for example, could be a big new industry, public transit, logistics, environmental recovery, those kind of things. That's where the future jobs are, but that's not happening because we don't have the research, we don't have the funding, and the universities are not independent to do this kind of stuff. So, simple solution, 100% publicly funded independent universities.
Now we turn the mics over to you, the audience.
Question for Peter. As much as you were saying that you want to see a public-funded education and that the rich would be the ones that would be taxed the heaviest for this, where would the initiative for people to drive to become richer if they know that all they're going to do is be taxed heavier? Where would the initiative to promote yourself to get better in that sort of system?
Would any other candidate like to address this question as well?
I'll take it. Okay. What we have here, you're talking about rich and poor people and stuff, so it's a very individualistically organized society we have. What we gotta find is a collective, a sense of collective anymore, a sense of the common good, away from the selfishness what we experienced right now. For example, like even if I don't have children in the school, education is still important, right? And that's with the other things too. We have to get away from this individualism.
We're into the candidate's final statements.
I've seen the BC Liberals and the NDP out there like used car salesmen with the dizzying array of announcements after announcements, and the Green Party trying to get a word in somewhere. We got to remember the announcements are just announcements. You only have to look as far as Mr. Trudeau and his electoral reform. And basically what these three parties are, they are arguing on how to rearrange the deck chairs. And that's not what we need. We need structural change. We need to change the direction we're going in. We have to take back the education, our province, back into public hands. Now, I've been accused of being idealistic. When Tommy Douglas came up with his idea of healthcare, he was called idealistic, and it was said, oh, it can't be done, it's impossible, it's too expensive. And guess what happened? He said, screw it, we'll do it anyways, and he did. So, May 9th, you have a choice. You got your regular middle-of-the-road parties, or you can vote idealistic. Try something new. Make a change. Thank you.